Good morning, everyone. I'm so excited because I am with Kristin Smedley and Mary Fran Bontempo, who are just near Philadelphia. And so they're going to be really cold like I am today. It's winter. It's really winter and we've hit it. But Kristin and Mary Fran have an amazing, and they're great because you can see they're brilliantly resilient is their brand, their Facebook community, and they're all about talking to amazing people. But the truth of the matter is, I was so excited to talk to them today because actually it's their story that is really brilliant and amazing. So I'm turning the tables really around today. They're a dynamic duo. They're powerful program. And I'm reading this because I really want people to know as they're coming on this morning to know who you two are. So I'm going to sort of steal your bio, I have to say. Kristin Smedley and Mary Fran Bontempo are a dynamic duo behind Brilliantly Resilient. The powerful program has come to be known that you bring about people who have been in crisis and you're telling their stories. As a young mother, Kristin found herself raising two blind sons, and you really just didn't know how you were going to navigate that. Mm-hmm. You found yourself tied all of a sudden to Mary Fran, who discovered one day that her son was a heroin addict. And that must have been incredibly just beyond devastating.
Devastating, yeah.
And as we know, drug overdose, drugs themselves are on an all-time high, especially during this pandemic. And so we can certainly get into that. You've come together, you have defined the challenges, and you talk about how people reset, they rise, and they reveal what's beyond their layers. And you do this in your brilliantly resilient Facebook community. And I love that you're talking to people, but the truth is, as I said early on, it's really you two who come from such an authentic place and knowing where people are coming from in those challenges. So thank you for being here. As I was doing research, looking at who you've talked to, it was really your story that grabbed my attention. Of course, it's the people you talk to, but to be able to navigate both your worlds, it's not surprising that the two of you inspire one another and give each other also a chance to be good friends, empower each other as women, and also find a place to laugh and cry, which we need to be able to do.
Yeah.
So welcome. Thank you for sharing some time with me today. I hope that what we can do here is find people a moment to find their chance to sort of, I love the word reset. On Monday, I felt like by 8:30, I needed to reset, which was incredible because I'm not even
8:30 in the morning, right?
Yeah.
I'm guessing.
Yeah, 8:30 in the morning. So I said to someone, man, I got to reset. So, and I had already over the weekend done the research on you both. And I thought, wow, it's really sad by 8:30 in the morning when you got to reset. But, let's start with you. Mary Fran, what is reset? When you guys came up with the reset, rise, reveal, what did that sort of mean to you with what you had gone through in your own personal experiences?
Well, Kristin and I have both realized that when you're hit with a crisis, or as we call them, sucker punches or train wrecks, it takes a lot away. It takes away any illusions you might have had about what things were or maybe even what you wanted them to be. It's like suddenly you have this thing and it's the reality that you have to deal with. The blessing in that is that you get an opportunity to really get back to the basics of what's important to you. So like for me, in my situation, when my son overdosed, and this was on Mother's Day of 2010, and he didn't overdose on heroin because he couldn't get it that day. He overdosed on a pain medication that when we got him to the hospital, the doctor said, if they couldn't reverse the effects of it, he would need a liver transplant if he lived. Mm-hmm. So, in that moment, everything else stops.
Yeah.
And as hard as that is, it's also an opportunity to clear everything away and go, okay, what matters?
Mm-hmm.
What really matters right now? And Kristin and I have taken that and realized that as we went through the process, we kind of we stumbled and bumbled our way through, but we both realized that what mattered to us in those moments of crisis for us was figuring out what our value system was and what was really, really important to us, and then making decisions on that. So like that reset part that we talk about has a couple of pieces in it. The first one is values. And Kristin can speak to the second one because that's a big part of what she does.
Yeah. So, and what's interesting is Mary Fran is telling this, what everyone needs to realize is, like Mary Fran said, we stumbled and bumbled through it. And it was when we came together that we realized that there was this process that we both had followed, but had no name to it. It was in conversation over probably 2 years that we figured out this was the process. So we caution everyone that we are doctors of nothing. Absolutely nothing. So
nothing.
This is like, if these two minds could figure this out and be standing and smiling, you all got this. So just go into doing that. But one of the biggest thing for me in the reset process was, and still is, my perception of how I'm looking at the crisis. So for me, when I found out that my son was blind, he was 4 months old, and he was the first blind person I had ever met. All I had in terms of a point of reference for blindness was nothing. It's what everybody else is thinking. Oh my God, that's the worst thing that could ever happen. That's exactly where I was, because I had never met anybody that was succeeding without sight, let alone surviving without sight, right? Mm-hmm. And quite frankly, I was looking at this as I had planned my entire life for everything that had unfolded. I'm just like that. I'm your annoying next door neighbor that just plans everything and checks the box and it all works out.
But I think for both of you as moms, we do that anyway. And so when we get hit with a crisis, and Mary Fran, you just said it, we stop and have to say, clear the slate, what is important, because, you have a baby and somebody says, now they're blind, or they're this, or they're that. You have just, it doesn't matter. You're pregnant, you're this, you're that. You've planned down the road.
I planned it whole life. I was looking at him walking down the aisle in my head by the time he arrived.
Of course. And, Mary Fran, you have a child who's older. You've also, we do this as mothers and parents. We've got their life planned. Sorry, kids, we do, They think they're out there on their own, but we try and not tell them that, but we do. And so when crisis happens, whether it be to our kids, our parents, that bump in the road just is a knockdown all the way down the hill, because it's just not what we envisioned. It's not what we expected. Yeah. And of course, we're not prepared.
And we continue to look at it as, this is disrupting my plan and I'm furious. That's what happened to me. Mm-hmm. I wanted the starting quarterback and the pitcher and the valedictorian. And I'm looking at this baby like all of my dreams are gone. They're extinguished. There's nothing. But I'll tell you what, Sari, it was the greatest thing that could ever have happened, because, and for all the moms out there and dads, having no dreams for my son was the greatest thing in the world, because all I could do was see how it was going to unfold and what were his dreams that were going to come to the surface. And it's hard. I have 2 sons that are affected with this and a sighted daughter, and I had to put it into practice with her. when she walked away from soccer onto the field hockey field, I thought I would die. Like, because we had intended for the next Carly Lloyd, and then here I don't even know what to do with a field hockey stick. But it was my dream, thinking it was both of our dream, and she had different dreams. So I think that that's where people get stuck, not just as moms, but also just in our life. Divorce knocked me over. I wanted a 50th wedding anniversary. That's how I saw it going. And I kept looking at it as the lost opportunity for the big celebration and a lifetime of memories when it needed to end, and new opportunities I had to open my eyes to.
Right.
My life's unfolding incredibly now. But when we get stuck looking at it as Mary Fran said, as we thought it should be, and she always says to me, think about what it could be.
I think, oh my God, what a beautiful, I mean, that's a beautiful sentiment. And I often think that things, you know, it's trivial in such a way, but I do believe things happen for a reason. And I know that we don't know the reason sometimes, but it's that same kind of thing that sometimes we see the reason, we see the potential, or, you know, it's hard to say, but you're like, why did that just happen? Oh, let it be, because we'll see why. We'll know why, you know, and we may not like it at that moment, but we're gonna see why, because, you know, and
unfortunately, you know, it's not until you usually end up with the benefit of time and that sort of pulled back moment where you can go, oh, that's what that happened. But what Kristin and I learned was that if you can get yourself in that mindset that you just referred to of, okay, I don't like this is bad, but what's really important to me here? What's my perception of the situation? And then, you know, what can I control about it? Then you can at least make informed decisions. And a lot of times, you know, we just have to wait and see how the plan works out. And that's another thing we talk to. Don't be married to outcomes.
So I think that you just used a really important word that's really hard, and that word control.
Oh yeah. We're not good. We're never good at
things. I'm pretty sure there's 3 control freaks sitting here right now, and I'm sure we could zoom in a few others. But I think that's one of the hardest, you know, when you've got type A moms, working moms, soccer moms, and all of the above, and plenty of those listening. That's the hard part. We do control our lives. We control, you know, the outcomes we want, and then we get hit. And it doesn't have to be the greatest of tragedies. It can just be a bump in the road. And what did you do to sort of, what's the tip or trick, you know? And not every tip and trick works for everybody, but
it's exactly what I just said. You cannot be married to outcomes. You know, like we create these sort of systems and we build this house of cards in our lives, but we don't think of it as a house of cards because we're hanging on to it white knuckle to make sure everything goes according to the plan. And like Kristin said, the calendar items, everything gets checked off. But the truth of the matter is, and we all saw this last year with COVID, at any moment, something can happen that just goes and blows on the house of cards and it all comes tumbling down. So if you can get your mindset fixed to, this is where I'm going to start, but I'm not going to be married to it so that my head's going to explode if it doesn't work out. So if you get it in your mind, I'm going to initiate the plan. Of course, we have to have plans. I mean, you can't accomplish anything without them, but you can't get yourself so worked up that if it doesn't work out at the end, the way you started it, that your head's going to fall off. You just got to go, all right, well, what do I need to do now? So, you know, Kristin and I have both subscribed to don't be married to outcomes.
Yeah.
Kristin, you guys talk to weekly, really outstanding people. What do you think? Is there someone you've talked to that really has blown you away, or that you've learned from, that you can, you know, not to put you on the spot. I mean, I do these Facebook lives every day, and I'm like, I kind of come on and go, oh my God, this was my favorite one. So
we tend to do that every week.
I know. And you know, like yesterday I was like, okay. And I had a client on yesterday, you know, because sometimes I have my clients, I'm like, okay, shh, you guys are like my favorite clients, you know? And so it's terrible because I love doing this, and I love what I say, showcasing amazing people. And as I started to say, like, your story has blown me away. So, who knows what tomorrow will be, but I would think with you all, like, you're talking to amazing people, like they've
been
must blow you.
And honestly, we've had folks there was a woman in our own hometown that owns a fitness studio, and COVID, of course, knocks the fitness and restaurant industry right out of the water, right?
Right. Those are my clients.
Yeah, she literally did the Brilliantly Resilient process without even realizing it. She went right to what her values were, raised her hand for help, did the whole thing. And she now actually, when everything came back, she closed the brick and mortar because of what she grew. Right. We've had everything from those kinds of stories to and I know Mary Fran, this is one of her favorites too, so I'm stealing it for both of us. But one of her favorites was Rob Angel, who created Pictionary. Now, this is the greatest selling game of all time. And he's just a cool, fun guy, right? But his story, it just reminded me so much of me when I knew nothing about blindness. I end up 10 years later starting the Global Patient Organization. I didn't know it was going to be a global patient organization. I just wanted somewhere for moms to come. When he started Pictionary, he was playing with friends, this game, and he kept saying, wow, people were like, this could really be something. And he's like, I'm not a game creator. I'm a waiter. Like, I'm not he kept putting himself, and I was doing that too. I'm like, I'm not a ginormous business person. I'm this mom just looking to help other moms. It has become this massive thing. Same thing with his journey. And he said several times he would go back and go, he's in these massive $1 billion deal meetings. And he's like, aren't I just a waiter? Like, and his point was stop limiting your own beliefs in your head of what's possible simply because you had this plan. And he didn't have a sucker punch that knocked him out. He was just on this little one step at a time plan, and a big opportunity came. It was a little bit opposite of what our lives were, and equally brilliant.
But I think what he used there was your mantra of don't be married to the outcome.
Yes, exactly.
But he didn't need, but
yeah.
The truth is he didn't need, a crisis, and God forbid, you don't always need.
Sometimes I think that the crisis is what Kristin just said. It can be our limiting beliefs.
Mm-hmm.
We've all got this brilliance, this spark. There's something in every one of us. But when we continue to say to ourselves, I'm only you take everything off the table. And it goes back to what Kristin said. Stop thinking about the way you think things should be, and make room for what they could be. And it doesn't necessarily have to be a huge thing. I mean, Jen, that Kristin was just referencing, Jen, just within her world, her realm, she created new things because she stopped thinking about the losses of what should have been.
I think that's like an excellent point, especially during this pandemic, because I think we've seen, and here in Michigan, with in my public relations job, I've seen a lot of that. I deal with a lot of small businesses and retailers, and that whole pivot mindset. And I work with a fitness studio as well. They had to close. They were doing the parking lot thing for a while, and it doesn't make sense. And they pivoted to online, and the same kind of sort of mindset of how can we be bigger? How can we grow? And it's the same thing in the retail world. Let's do a website. How can we grow? How can we be bigger? And, how can we expand, these small businesses, these communities? And, I do say I'm careful to say, the pandemic did that, the good of a pandemic, because too many people lost their lives in all the bad of the pandemic, without question. But, I try and look for some positive in what is going on to stay positive. And so that shift in business and that shift in mindset to keep people going is, how are we doing things differently? And because the other choices get stuck in the mud,
Well, and to Mary Fran's point with Jen, the thing that made her grow the way she did, and I'm sure that your clients probably feel this way too, when she whittled it down to what her core value was, it was community building. That's what was important to her and her husband, that's the co-owner. And how could they still bring their community together and build them up? And that's where the sweet spot was. Because then she found these things. She went out in the community when we were allowed to leave our houses and not go in buildings. She did the online. She worked with other business owners and in her community to build each other. And it was absolutely extraordinary the way that all of that came to play. And then the other thing I will say, to your point of finding the positive, one of my greatest friends in the world came on our show and blew all of us away. And I know Mary Fran is going to smile ear to ear because she loves him, David Feigenbaum, who cured his own rare disease and is now working on COVID. And his book is absolutely extraordinary. But he says he was told there was no hope for him 5 times on his deathbed and cures it. And now he has a global rare disease organization to help others. But his number one thing was, I'm always the forever optimist looking for the silver lining. And he said, Kristin, there's not always a silver. Oh my God, it makes me cry. There's not always a silver lining. You may have to create your own silver lining. And that is one of the telltale qualities of somebody that really is living brilliantly resilient. You're creating that for you or for others. He's extraordinary.
We love David. And I will say this, he couples it with action. You have to hope, create your silver lining, and act. I love David. He's wonderful.
I don't know if she's listening, but I think of my closest friend who lost a child, and there was no silver lining there, but she has created a foundation to help others. And I think of that, and everybody who knows me knows her. And I think that sometimes that's creating a silver lining where you can help somebody else with your own, when you have, your own tragedy, to be able to help. And that's beautiful. I want to know more about David.
His book is Chasing My Cure. It was a New York Times bestseller last year. But yeah, look him up. And to your point of your friend, creating silver linings for others, Mary Fran and I have found in our 200 plus interviews over this past year, if you can't come out of that crisis and for your reset and take the one action step, what we have found is the people that do it in service to others, that's how they get out and take one step forward.
Yeah.
Move forward in service.
Yeah. Because
everything follows.
Look, you can never look in anyone else's house. But when you see someone take that step, it's beautiful. I know our time is coming to an end, but I want to talk about some of the service, I want to talk about your website and your book and a couple of those things, because I know that people are listening today. And one of the things I find, because people will say, oh my God, I wanted you to keep going. And I'm like, okay, we're on Facebook and people have to go to their day jobs. Like I have to go to my day job. But it's brilliantlyresilient.net. And you have a book. So somebody talk about the book, whoever, how do you get it? You do your sales pitch, because it is important. And,
the book is on Amazon.
This is the time, ladies, definitely sell the book. I say go for it.
It's on Amazon. And Kristin actually found this, that we intentionally made this short. This is a short, quick read. It is packed with value bombs, as brilliance bits, as we call them, but it's a very short read. And in fact, what was that category? It was the under 2 hour read.
There's a new thing on Amazon. This is a big thing now, that it's the under 2 hour read. We were up there with Joel Osteen, so we were in the top 10 with him.
So someone like me, and I'm going on a little vacation. I don't know if it's a vacation, and I know my parents aren't listening. I'm going to visit my parents. My sister's not even listening, and she knows it's not a vacation. But I'm going to see my mom and dad because they're getting their second COVID shot next week. But I love it because I know it's under, and it's like, to me, this is the kind of book that you have to have with you, like sitting at the pool, or a Sunday afternoon, because you can go through it and it's a spark.
And look, it's made to go in your purse, in your carry-on bag, because here's the thing, you guys, unfortunately, you're going to have to read it again and again.
Yeah.
You're going to keep every time those sucker punches
Right.
come, that's what it's made for. And it's got the little pullouts of the brilliance bits when sometimes you're just like, I just need something right now for 30 seconds to get me through. And you open this and it's designed so that you can do that because yes, you have to keep looking at us and refer.
Well, we get sucker punched a lot.
Yeah, we do.
And everybody gets sucker punched a little different. And I, one of the things I think is really important, everybody's sucker punch is their own sucker punch. And I think like also that's important. I mean, I know that some days, a friend will call me and they'll vent and they'll be like, oh, that's nothing compared to what you're going through. I'm like, it's your day. Go for it. Vent away. I'm here, And so I always say like, your sucker punch is your sucker punch. Mine is mine,
You have to value it. You really do have to acknowledge it. And we encourage people to do that with no judgment. I mean, whatever you're going through, but then get that mindset. And, the other reason the book is short too, people who are in crisis or in challenges, you don't have time to read a 400-page book. I don't have time to do that. Like I got to make decisions now. I don't have time to. So,
I have to tell you that I think what you have time for is a little Post-it note next to your computer and I was thinking about this last night, that says reset, rise, reveal your brilliance. And I thought to myself that this is, if you take away anything today from you beautiful women, is to put that Post-it note next to your computer. Because I think, that and go to Amazon.
I love it. You definitely have to go to Amazon.
I'm a good listen, if anything, I'm a good salesperson. I'm in PR. I believe that your time is valuable. I want people to read your book. I do. But I really think that putting that powerful message is a good reminder of you're going to be okay. You've got to, I say this a lot on this Facebook. My mom and dad are both brilliant in my life of messaging, but there's lots of days where my mom's like, okay, you can have your moment. You can have your moment of like, woe's me kind of thing, but now pull your bootstraps up, get going, keep going,
There's good stuff on the other side. That's the thing.
Yeah.
There's good stuff. That's when you get to at the end of the book, when it gets to the reveal your brilliance chapters, that's where the super sweet spot is, because that's where all of your gifts and talents emerge through what you walked through and grew through. And then where can you go with that?
Well, I'm going to let you guys go talk to brilliant, resilient people, because that's what you do and that's who you are. I appreciate your time today. I'm so honored and blessed to have met you. I hope that you'll come back and keep me posted on everything that you're doing and people that you talk to. Anytime, you're welcome. And I can't wait to read the book. I'm going to start it next 2 weeks. 2 weeks to go. I'm getting out of this cold.
Oh, good for you.
Good
I know. It's just a couple days out of here.
Right? I
know.
Take the reset.
You know what? I have a little anxiety, but I'm double masking, face shield, and I just really miss my parents. So I got to do it.
Enjoy.
Thank you again. I can't wait to hear all the great things coming your way. So
thanks so much, Mary.
All right. Have a beautiful day.
You too.
Bye-bye.